We are live, so everyone should be able to see and hear us now.
Excellent. Welcome, everyone. We'll just give it a minute as people are joining before we make a start. Won't keep you long. Welcome to everyone just joining us now. We'll be getting started in just a moment. Okay, I think we're good to go. So hi everyone and welcome to today's Cloud Talk. We're covering Pluralsight and our BGI UK learning channels. Today we're going to be exploring and demonstrating some of the features available on Pluralsight, and in particular the Skills IQ, Skills Path and learning channels. And whilst Pluralsight covers lots of different topics, we are focusing today on the cloud-related topics, and that's what you'll see in the demos that we go through, and the tools that are aligned or designed to help you develop your knowledge and skills. So this talk will be presented by myself, Sharon Fraser, for those of you who haven't met me before, and my colleague, Sharif Bauer, and together we make up the BGI UK Cloud Training Team. We're also lucky enough to have Julie Stott joining us. She'll be talking towards the end of the talk today to provide a bit of insight into where we are with the professions. And you'll see as we go through this cloud talk how these learning channels align to the professions. So it will all start to make sense as we go through. But she'll also be able to answer any questions you've got, hopefully in that space of professions, which you may well have heard something about if you attended the Tech Vision event, for example, within your own business areas. So before we get stuck into the content, I just want to mention that if you do have any questions as we go through the presentation, the Q&A and chat box are available for you to pop any questions in. So feel free to do that. We'll make sure that we do keep some time towards the end of the session today to go through those questions. And we'll also open up the mics at the end of the call. So if you want to just come off of mute and ask a question, you can do that if you prefer to ask that way as well. Anything goes, all fine. So we are recording the session today, and if there are any relevant materials or links, they'll be popped into the chat. You get access to our cloud training portal. So all of that will be shared as well during or after today's session. So we launched our cloud training portal about a year ago, and as the name suggests, it's a gateway to all of your cloud training needs, including learning platforms, one of which is Pluralsight, instructor-led training opportunities, all of our previous Cloud Talk recordings like this one. We've done about 17, I think, prior to this year. So there's all the recordings of those available on our cloud training portal if you want to catch up, if you missed out on any topics that are of interest to you. And we also have our key learning paths, access to our cloud newsletters, so much more on there. So it's worth taking a look. If you're struggling at all to determine where to begin your cloud learning journey or continue to develop along it, the Cloud Training Portal's Key Learning Paths page has Bupa-defined professions as a guide to help you determine where best to focus your learning in accordance with the cloud knowledge and skills that may be required for your role or how you want to progress in your career path, for example. So I'm going to hand over to Sharif now to take you through how to access Pluralsight from the Cloud Training Portal and demonstrate some of those key features. Over to you, Sharif.
Thank you very much. So for the training portal landing page, hopefully this is familiar to a lot of you already, but if not, as Sharon was just explaining, we have this as a central hub where all of the cloud training resources can be accessed. So as you can see, the first option here is the learning platforms page. All these links will take you to the pages listed here. So if we go into this for a second, learning platforms just provides a source where you can find all the different pages of all the information relevant to getting started with each of our learning platforms. Focusing in on Pluralsight. Pluralsight is available to Bupa colleagues in a tech role. To request a license for this, you can raise a ServiceNow request. Each of these buttons actually links to that ServiceNow request. So an easy way to do that is to just hop onto the page and select the first links for Pluralsight. It'll take you to this form that you can fill out for that. This typically is within one working day. You'll receive an email that provides a link to access Pluralsight. If you already have a license, though, you can sign in directly to Pluralsight. Links to that will be accessible here on the Pluralsight page, where we also have more information about Pluralsight and a getting started section. As you can just find your way around how to get started with Pluralsight, and you can sign in immediately. So moving on to Pluralsight, once you sign in, first thing you'll find is the home page. This platform gives you numerous tools to curate your learning experience to your own level of ability and your desired path of development. In particular, the skill IQ assessment here is used to evaluate your current skill level with regards to your specific role, and it also helps you gain a better understanding of where you have skill or knowledge gaps. So back over to Sharon, so we can go a bit more in depth with this tool.
Thank you. So just to mention, Sharif has popped in the chat the Cloud Training Portal link, so you can get to the landing page and all of those things that he was showing you on the screen, different aspects and topics that you can get to. And also, if you haven't got a Confluence license yet to access the Cloud Training Portal, there is a link to follow the PDF in the chat as well. So back to the Pluralsight and Skills IQ. So Skills IQ is how you can measure your proficiency in a specific technology, such as cloud. There's lots of other technologies available in there, but as I said, we're focusing on cloud. And this measurement takes about 10 to 15 minutes, and there's usually around 20 questions for you to complete within that assessment. And then once you've completed that assessment, you'll receive a skill level of either novice, proficient emerging, proficient average, proficient above average, or expert level. And that will depend on how you get on through your skill IQ assessment and the result that it brings back for you. So your skill IQ looks at a skill in a holistic way, measuring the total level of test takers' skills compared to other professionals who have taken the same assessment. And that will help you to determine what skills to develop next in order to keep advancing. So Sharif will demonstrate how skill IQ works. And as you can see here, you can measure your skill level against any of the 60 cloud-related topics that are listed here to choose from. So there's things like Google Cloud Foundations, application development on Microsoft Azure, architecting with Google Cloud Platform architectures, and so much more to on that long list. And you can select the Measure Now button for the skill you're interested in assessing and then start the assessment. But you can also see this button under the Discover tab, and you can find it on the front page of certain skill paths as well, where you'll be prompted to take the assessment before you begin your learning. And after completing a skill assessment, you will see a personalised skill analysis that will be dependent upon where you've come in the percentile, and Sharif will explain that. But if you get that personalised skill analysis, it's going to then display your strengths and your gaps that have come out as a result of that analysis. So you'll know where to focus your learning efforts moving forward. You're able to leave a skill assessment partway through and save your progress to come back to finish it at a later date if needed. And they're also adaptive. So dependent on your answers to previous questions, the number of questions remaining may change. if you come back to it at a later point. So I don't know if there's anything you can demonstrate on that, Sharif.
Yeah, I think as you were watching there, as I was doing the final couple of questions on that, I just blitzed through that assessment where I just was just selecting don't know the answer, don't know the answer. But as I selected it for one of the final questions, it actually didn't register it as an answer. It actually extended the number of questions that I had to take. This is because, as Sharon was mentioning, it is adaptive, which means they need some base level understanding of what your knowledge is. So you can't really blag your way through by just saying, I don't know the answer. You should just have a crack at it, even if it means guessing a couple of answers, so that it at least understands where your level of knowledge is at. It'll actually extend the test so that it can ask more questions depending on your previous answers. So you'll notice here, because I was just blagging my way through, essentially it came up with 0th percentile. But for something that I did beforehand, an example of the personalized skill analysis, if you get into the 20th percentile or higher on a skill IQ assessment, it unlocks the personalized skill analysis here, where you'll be able to see your strengths and your gaps outlined based on your answers. If you place lower than the 20th percentile, you do actually get one free retake for a skill IQ assessment. It'll ask you if you want to do a retake, and that one's completely free, so you can go ahead and do it. And I believe after that one, you have to wait a period before you retake a skill IQ assessment. But as you can see here, on this one, got into the 25th percentile, so it's unlocked a number of more features that I can use to curate my learning going forward.
So yeah, so following your assessment, once you've undertaken some further training to close down that skill gap that's been suggested in your personalized skill analysis, you get notified on your profile page when you can retake the assessment. It comes up with a retake now button. So some of them like to tell you, like this does currently, that you can retake it in 14 days. But if you've done your learning and you're good to go, then it will say retake now. And then you can do the assessment again to see if you've moved up the skills level. I think that's normally a 2-week period before you get the retake now. And that becomes available for you to continue on your upskilling journey. So as a side note, just to mention, we have curated a list of recommended skills IQs for upskilling across certain topics of cloud, what we kind of deem to be popular or value adding skills IQs to do. So if you're interested in those, please do reach out to either myself or Sharif after this session, and we'll be happy to share them with you. It just saves you going through the whole great big long list as we have done, and we've looked at what topics give you what skills, so we've broken that down, so we can share it with you in a consumable format if you want to take a shortcut route to identifying what skill IQs may be of value to you. Okay, so we'll now take a look at another feature called skill paths. So from the topic section on the left-hand side there, you can use the filters to specify cloud skill paths, for example, and vendors. You could scroll down to select a vendor that, depending upon the platform you're working with, such as Microsoft, if you're working with Microsoft Azure. And then you can choose a topic relevant to that, such as application development on Microsoft Azure. And skills paths are structured into beginner, intermediate, and advanced, as you can see. So you've got those 3 categories. Your skill level typically aligns with where in a path to start. So you don't have to waste time going through learning content that you already know. You can focus your time and efforts on upskilling further in your desired technology, joining it at the point that's right for you. So once again, note that some skill paths will prompt you to attempt a skill IQ assessment before beginning your learning. And not all of them will, but you will see that sometimes on there. Okay, so we're now going to move to the learning channel section that Sharif will talk you through. how you'll see how this
Okay,
aligns to the professions.
perfect. So learning channels, these are essentially just a way to organize and share content with team members to help reach learning goals and business objectives more effectively. When you first open up the learning channel section, it'll look quite a bit different to this because these are the channels that you yourself have either organized or joined or been invited to. You'll be able to see those listed here. Whereas for me, you can see I've organized quite a number of learning paths. So this is all my page. For you, it will look different, just to note that. Company channels down here are a good place to get started if you sort of have an idea of what kind of training you want to do already. Company channels have been created by various individuals, some of whom may be Bupa employees, and they've been shared with the company at large. So once again, if you understand what kind of training you want to do already, you can have a look through these and explore, find a topic that relates to that, and have a crack at going through some of the learning paths that have been organized. We've got a bunch of other topics here that are listed, like here, for example, Cloud DevOps Engineer. I think Julie put a number of these together herself. I'm not sure how up to date these are, but they are a good opportunity if you've got a specific area that you want to address. Cloud Product Owner here, for example, to look at some of the content that's been organized there. The company's priorities list, that one is. So if we come back to the professions upskilling. So we've pulled together some BGI UK learning channels of cloud upskilling. These are named in alignment with the professions that were mentioned earlier, like engineering, architecture and design, IT product management, etc. So you can choose a learning channel, let's say engineering, for example, that is most relevant to your role, and explore all the courses that are available to you, depending on the cloud platform you're working with and your current level of knowledge. You'll see we have Microsoft Azure, we have Google Cloud Platform. You can access the specific profession-aligned learning channels through the links provided on the Cloud Training Portal Learning Paths page. So if I demonstrate that real quickly here, on the Key Learning Paths page, you'll see there's a link here at the top. That takes you to the Professions Upskilling group, where you'll be able to see all of these channels here. Other ways you can access this page are through the links in our monthly cloud newsletter. I'm not sure how many of you have read the newsletter all the way through, but if you have, I think on the last page, there's a selection of links that lead to each of these individual upskilling channels. So you'll be able to access it through that as well. Or you can navigate this way through Pluralsight itself from the home page. There is a way to do it. So as you can see on the learning channels, there are ways to keep track of your progress of learning. You can see here your completion rate. It tells you the amount of time it takes to go through all the learning content in each of these. And there's also notification every time there's an updated module on one of these courses. So you'll see there's like a bright blue section that says that there's some new content available. We will update that so that all the content is up to date, and you'll be able to see when there's some new content there. If we add a new course, for example, you'll get notified that there's some new content to interact with, and then you can find your way back into the channel. There's also in case you would like to revisit any of these modules, you can use that notification to do that as well. So if one of these, for example, AZ400, if one of the modules receives an update, it'll notify us, and then we'll update it, and you'll be made aware of that as well. Looking closer, we've got here two sections, recommended and supplementary. So the idea here is that the recommended courses, these are what we believe to be necessary knowledge and skills for the roles within this profession. These will often be focused on training for a specific certification like Azure or Google. So you'll see here, for example, we've got AZ400, and then we've also got like the Cloud Engineer Learning Path. So if you look here on the Cloud Learning Paths page as well, these correspond to the courses listed here in each of these sections. The only difference being that in the Pluralsight learning channels, these will take you to a Pluralsight learning pathway where there's videos and demonstrations put together. Whereas these links on the Key Learning Paths page will take you either to Microsoft Learn or to Google Cloud Skills Boost for on-demand training that you can do on your own. So if I head back to the learning pathway and open up the supplementary, these are all courses and learning paths that we think will be helpful for your training to incorporate. So you'll notice that often, not always, but often enough, the courses here will look at more general cloud concepts that are relevant to the profession. So we see here like DevOps big picture, as opposed to a specific certification. And if they do focus on the certification, it will be based on a different certification type as compared to GCP or Azure. One thing to note is that these channels will continue to evolve. So with more relevant courses and pathways being added as the cloud disciplines are aligned, as the cloud disciplines aligned to each of these professions are more defined, we'll be able to find more relevant and accurate learning pathways that we can then feed into this. And as mentioned earlier, you'll be notified when these are updated so that you know that there's new content or more specific content that'll be helpful. But the main aim is to ensure that your development and your training is as effective as possible with you going through the recommended training, and then also breaking that up with some of the supplementary things as well. So the recommended will address specific knowledge gaps that you may or may not have, and the supplementary is a way to kind of bolster your knowledge even further to maximize the amount of upskilling that you're doing. So that's it for the learning pathways. If we move over onto the future of these professions.
Yeah, so regarding the Bupa professions, our aim is to continue to support you in your career development pathway at Bupa. And there's going to be lots more information coming on the professions, but we are lucky enough, as I mentioned at the start of the call, to have Julie Stott, who is our guru in professions. So she's head of technology professions here with us. So she's going to give you a bit of an insight into where we are right now with the professions and be open to any questions as well. So any questions on anything we've covered today, feel free to start putting those in the Q&A or the chat, and we'll get to that after we've heard from Julie. But right now, over to you.
Thanks so much. I'll try and do justice to that great introduction. Thank you so much. Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks so much for having me. I thought it might be beneficial maybe just to share sort of a fairly high level overview of what we're working on in the profession space. Hopefully the term is becoming a little bit more familiar with you. I know in Mark's strategy day a few weeks ago, it focused heavily. Great to see people actually as one of the key pillars. That was amazing to see from my side. Hopefully everyone sort of feels the same. So the professions model, it's multifaceted, but one of the key pillars to the professions model, and I think most pertinent to today and to this talk, is thinking about career frameworks and how we start to unlock that for people. I think we as employees have been banging on that door for a few years. It's fair to say now as sort of one of our key areas that we'd like to see more and feel more. So one of the key developments within the professions model is a skills-based framework. And what we're doing there, to be really transparent, is across the 6 professions that we will sort of recognise moving forward, and it'll take a little bit of time, but we'll start to embed those into our ways of working across technology for Bupa Group. So we've got the 6 professions: architecture, engineering, information security, infosec, IT governance and risk, and IT ops. So what we're currently doing at the minute with the right people in the room, and when I say the right people, I mean the SMEs, the leaders of these professions globally, coming together and looking at this to try and standardise for us, which will help with career mobility and things like that when the time comes. We are defining what these professions should look like in terms of skills, competencies across the grades within our organisation. Generally speaking, we have grades A to F, as some of you might know. F is sort of that direct chief officer really level. A grades are sort of the graduates, working up to our E grades, which are our principals. So we're really focusing on grades A to E for SMEs, so technical career paths for technologists in Bupa. So to bring that to life for you a little bit, let's take engineering. So we got our distinguished engineers, our principal engineers, and our engineer sponsors, so Paul Schuster for yourselves, in a room and had an initial conversation about what should engineering look like. Well, twofold. What does engineering look like for Bupa, and what should it look like for Bupa? And from there, we started to sort of carve out disciplines within engineering, and they're sort of high level groupings of engineers, hopefully nothing that shocks anyone, things like software engineers, security engineers, data, cloud. We've got sort of 9 disciplines that were defined by those people in the room and agreed on collectively. What we're doing at the minute is for each of those disciplines, as we've sort of named them, we're creating a set of core competencies that track to each of those disciplines by grade. We're trying to use external, really credible frameworks to get us started, bearing in mind we are sort of starting from zero. So for the professions that we've gone after so far, which are architecture, engineering, information security, and we've just stood up IT ops actually, Sophia has been the framework of choice. And what we're doing at the minute is we're aligning those Sophia skills and the levels. I'm sure we can maybe share some information for people who aren't familiar. It's SFIA. If you Google it, you can see all the frameworks there. They're made public online. We're aligning the levels to our grades. The idea being that you will be able to see really clearly, really transparently across all roles in technology what good looks like. With that, the hope is that you're empowered to do 2 things. Firstly, understand how you're sort of performing, where your development areas are, where you might need support in your current role, and how you continue to be great at what you're doing, especially in the changing landscape over the next few years. I think we all need to be on that continuous learning journey. So that's the first thing. How can I continue to be great at what I'm doing today? And how do I know what that looks like? Hopefully that brings real clarity and transparency. But super importantly, and one of the main reasons for us spending all this time trying to get this right is how do we unlock the career element of that for you? So whatever your aspirations are personally, you can understand what good looks like in that role, overlay sort of your skills profile, skills makeup, and again, understand where your personal development areas are. And of course, that's very much down to your individual preferences. You might just want to continue being great at what you're doing, and that's fab as well. But the idea being is that you're empowered to understand what good looks like without reliance on a manager or being on a particular call. It will all be transparent and clear. From there, once we can hopefully bring that transparency and clarity for everybody, the idea is, and as you've seen an amazing example of that today, is we'll then curate interventions and resources that would support you with that upskilling journey, whether it's for current role, whether it's for future role, whichever direction you guys want to head in with it. But the idea is that it's a really nice user experience for you guys and really can bring careers to life from a technical perspective. So where we are today, we've got architecture, we've got solution and enterprise architecture defined just to the discipline. We will go further down, so I appreciate somebody might be sat on the call thinking, okay, well, I'm an enterprise architect, but I specialize in data. What does that next layer mean to me, or that next lens? Really important, I agree, in the tools and technologies, and we will get there. But as I say, we're sort of starting from the ground, and we agreed that we'd get all 6 profession frameworks up to discipline level. Then we'll go into the specialisms of those disciplines and the tools and technologies and start to really think about the granular levels. But the first delivery is you will all transparently see what does good look like for a software engineer in Bupa from graduate to principal. That's sort of our drive, and we're not going to boil the ocean with that. I understand that there'll be certain nuances and local nuances that need to be accounted for. Obviously, we can't do that in a global standardized framework. So these are the core competencies, but hopefully a really, really good indication of what Bupa's looking for. And obviously they've been endorsed by people like Paul from your side, George Dodd in IT product management, Emma in information security. So sort of the profession sponsors have all played a really big role in defining these. And then, yeah, I'd say once you understand where your development areas are, the idea is that there's curated content and not just content that you would consume via things like Pluralsight, but we'll start to think about how we actually then bring that to life for everybody. And please do keep in mind that this is a journey for us. Definitely not promising this by next week, but we'll start with the curated content through some of our providers like Pluralsight, LinkedIn. I'm sure we can tap up some of our providers as well to provide that. And then we'll start to think about, okay, communities, which is another key pillar of professions. How do we bring these communities to life, make them vibrant areas that you as an individual, as an employee, can gain real value from? And that includes development, coaching and mentoring, a space to solve problems with like-minded professionals, all that good stuff we're going after. And eventually, you know, the idea is we'll get to like a gig economy. So if someone on here wanted to move to infosec, well, hey, great, go and shadow someone for 3 days and then here's a project. That's a bit more North Star thinking. What we will deliver, and we'll deliver well by next year, is that really transparent framework with curated content that will support that initial start of the journey of upskilling. So we've got architecture submitted for approval. That one should be done and dusted in the next couple of weeks and sort of ready to share. Engineering should be done by the 8th of November. I think we've just got hardware left to define. We've pretty much locked, an SRE, sorry. We've locked down the rest collectively. InfoSec's pretty much there as well. There's just one conversation around whether GRC should sit in InfoSec. Whether there should be a discipline of GRC in InfoSec, or whether that should remain in the IT governance and risk profession. Once that's been sort of agreed collectively, that one will be ready to go. We've just stood up IT ops and IT products as well, and then IT governance and risk will be in January. The idea being that all of those disciplines are defined and underpinned by skills and competencies by the end of Q1 next year. And our ambition is to be really transparent with what that looks like and provide clarity. And the conversations will all be around, how do we help? How do we invest in people? Where should our engineering professionals and leaders be investing to support that growth of engineering technical capability in the business and standards? So we're really hoping to start to drive that through the professions lens, with the right people making some of these decisions, who sort of live in this world, hopefully know where to turn for the right training, right support, and everything else that goes with sort of making that career side possible. I think they were the key things. Sharon, Sharif, if I missed anything that we spoke about this morning there?
No, I don't think so.
No, great.
I think that's great. That's a really good insight and update on where things are at and what's coming next, and with some timelines. So
yeah, thank you.
Really useful.
We're making progress. Yeah,
yes.
I'd say it won't be delivered overnight, but we're making great progress, and so good to see like your BGI UK strategy having people as a pillar. You know, that's amazing to see, and hopefully a demonstration of, you know, how invested the leaders, and not just in the UK but in APAC, in group functions, in ELA, all are to trying to get this right and equip us with what we need to deliver what's being asked of us by the business. So yeah, all really positive. Some things we've not quite figured out yet. We're working them out. I said this morning, if anyone's seen communities work really well elsewhere, or they've been involved in the setup of communities, that's something we're thinking about now. And we've seen them fall victim to time and being empty spaces where people don't really lean in. So we really don't want that to be the case. So we're just thinking about, you know, the value that they can bring, how they should be positioned, how we make sure they're vibrant areas for people. So yeah, definitely not sat claiming that we know everything and have every answer, but if anybody does have anything there that they think would be super helpful, then please do reach out and let us know. We're really open to talking this stuff through, because it's for us at the end of the day. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And I really appreciate the point that you've made about how, you know, we don't want to sit there and be empty spaces. These are such fantastic learning opportunities through community, where peer-to-peer, you know, you can help somebody out, share something you've done that's gone well or that hasn't gone well, and then go, okay, well, I know not to do that, so I'll go and try something different.
It could be great. Yeah, it could be brilliant. We just need to unlock how we get that right, and things like coaches and mentors as well. You know, if we've got, the way I think about this is, let's say I was a software engineer, and let's say programming was part of that key competency. If that's a development area of mine, we're trying to design it whereby I could look specifically for coaches and mentors that, you know, sort of are flagged as programming coaches and mentors to principal grade. So it's really easy for me to navigate which tools are going to be the best for me, appreciating that there's limited time on this stuff anyway. How do we make this a nice experience and the easiest possible experience for everybody, given our cultures and environment that will change over time, not overnight?
Absolutely. So any questions, anyone on any of that good stuff, please do feel free to come off of mute and ask. or pop a question in the chat or Q&A box. Whilst you're thinking of your questions, we have got a very quick poll. So as I said, we've done, I think, 18 Cloud Talks so far this year, and we've got a few more to go before we get to the end of the year. We'd love to know what cloud related topics you would like to have a cloud talk on in the future. So please do make your selections and let us know which area you work within, so that we can see what the training needs or awareness needs are, even across those different areas. That would be really, really useful. But yeah, we very much welcome questions, as I said, for Julie around the professions, or if there's anything more broader learning related from what you've seen today on Pluralsight or anything else. We're here at your disposal to answer your questions if we can. So love to hear from you, or if you've got any thoughts or feedback on things we were just talking about, like how to make communities successful, things like that. We'd love to hear it. Don't be shy. Anyone? I'm trying to think of some of the questions we had this morning that might be useful to share. We had one around communities, didn't we? So we've spoken about that. Anyone recall what else we had this morning? There were some good questions came up.
Just there was a question on the, I think the Pluralsight license, including a cloud guru.
Yes, yeah.
And then on the Sophia framework as well.
Yeah, so on Pluralsight, somebody did ask a question about whether we could get access to a cloud guru, which is the part of Pluralsight that enables you to get hands-on and do the labs, which is, I appreciate, quite useful. Alex Risk, who is the L&D manager within technology, is having conversations with regard to Pluralsight and what kind of licenses we would have next year. I don't know if we've got an outcome of that yet. She's actually on leave this week, but it's something we can follow up to see what the decision is around that. But something else that we are exploring with Microsoft, for example, is to get a sandbox environment. So for those who are working with the Azure Cloud Platform, for application teams who are going to be putting applications and workloads onto the Azure Cloud Platform, having that kind of psychological safety of having a sandbox environment to go into and do some hands-on stuff without knowing, worrying that you're going to go and take the platform down in any way, would be quite nice. So we had a meeting actually with Microsoft last week, and we've been talking about things like that. So it's being discussed and explored. So one way or another, hopefully we will be able to offer more of a hands-on experience beyond doing labs as part of Azure or Google training courses, for example. So yeah, we'll keep you posted on that. Can you remember what the Sophia framework one was?
I think it was about promotion.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yeah, we did have a question around if I tick all the boxes for my role, does that sort of automatically qualify me for promotion? Obviously, I can't give a BGI UK specific answer. I think that's probably one to take offline, and transparently, I imagine there's a lot more further conversation required around promotion process, which will come. From my perspective, I sort of said this morning, the technical capability, particularly in technology, right? And I'm sure I'm preaching to the converted on this call, is super important. Technical capability is a differentiator, right? So in that part, yes, this has definitely got a role to play within promotion decisions that are made, within new opportunity decisions that are made. I used this analogy this morning, but I see this as one ingredient that goes into the cake. You could show amazing technical capability, but if the behaviours aren't quite where they would be expected to be by your market unit, and aligned to that grade, that could be something that is a drawback. So it's part of a slightly wider puzzle. I don't want to retract from how great I think this is at moving forward and how this will lean into somebody's career, but definitely don't want to sort of paint this rosy picture that if you get green across all your skills, you will automatically be promoted. I believe there's a lot of work to be done there, and a lot of questions to be asked about how we do reward people putting in the time and effort to upskill as SME contributors in the business. We're not quite there with those conversations yet, but this will be a huge part of that, and this will absolutely be looked at when new opportunities do become available. Something that was always told to me that used to rub me up the wrong way until a few years ago is perform at the next role before you'll be offered it. And I just think, well, are you going to pay me for performing at that? Right, as I aged a little bit, I started to realize what was actually meant by that is I can do the training offline and tick the knowledge boxes, but when you actually come to put that into practice in a real life environment, it can be slightly different. So to be able to perform at that level and demonstrate my capability at that level made it so much easier for me to then sort of justify why I absolutely was ready for that next role. But by the by, this is an ingredient, an extremely important one, but part of a puzzle that we are slowly starting to put together. Hopefully there's no one on here that doesn't think this is a big step in the right direction for us and provides great clarity on the technical capability space. But yeah, as I say, we've still got a little bit of work to do, and I think there'll be market unit conversations about what promotion processes look like. So I won't want to speak out of turn for the UK, but I know everybody's really keen on getting that right and making sure people feel incentivized to sort of put themselves out there, learn continuously what's expected to continue to be great in your roles, but to then go that one step further and bring extra credibility, extra standard, extra technical capability into the organisation. So yeah, hopefully people are fairly satisfied with that answer, but I couldn't sit here and say tick those boxes and yes, that is automatic promotion. Unfortunately, that's not the world we live in. Yeah, and there needs to be roles and things as well. I think we mentioned this morning, I know Mark, I don't think I'm wrong in saying Mark was talking about having more in-house talent as part of your 3-year strategy. So, with that, hopefully that brings great opportunity for people, and this sort of skills-based framework would play into that hugely.
Yeah.
So really positive.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So let me call out once more. I haven't seen any questions come into the Q&A box or the chat. But has anyone got anything they'd like to raise? No? Okay. Well, if you've got no questions, Sharif has just popped in the chat that the recording for this Cloud Talk and any previous ones can be found on WorkVivo and on our Cloud Talks page within our Cloud Training portal. We would also love to receive feedback from you to understand, what we're doing well for you and what we could do better. So if you have got a minute to give us some feedback on how these Cloud Talks are going, that would be fabulous as well. You can reach out at any time to us with questions, of course, if you don't want to raise them today. We're around, contactable, so do feel free if you need any guidance or support with your cloud training journeys. We'll be happy to help. But other than that, if there's no questions from anyone else, thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to catching up with you all again soon. Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Sharif.
Thanks very much.
Bye,
thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.